Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita as it is. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 2. The contents of the Gita summarized, verse number 8. We are in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and Arjuna is confused as to what he should be doing. In the verse number 8, he continues his argument on whether to fight or not to fight. Nahi prapashyami mamapanutyat yachokamuchoshanamindriyanam avapya bhuma vasapatnamriddham rajyam suranam apichadipatyam. I can find no means to dry away this grief, which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it, even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth, with sovereignty like demigods in heaven. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Although Arjuna was putting forward so many arguments based on the knowledge of the principles of religion and moral codes, it appears that he was unable to solve his real problem without the help of a spiritual master, Lord Sri Krishna. He could understand that his so-called knowledge was useless in driving away his problems, which were drying up his whole existence, and it was impossible for him to solve such perplexities without the help of a spiritual master like Lord Krishna. Academic knowledge, scholarship, high position, etc. are all useless in solving the problems of life. Help can be given only by a spiritual master like Krishna. Therefore, the conclusion is that a spiritual master who is 100% Krishna conscious is the bona fide spiritual master, for he can solve the problems of life. So here Srila Prabhupada is saying that in the purport that Arjuna was quite learned. He was the excellent student of Dronacharya. However, when faced with the real difficulties of life, he was unable to solve the problems himself. So we could be a PhD, we could be a great engineer or a doctor or a scientist, but these are academic knowledge. When we face life, the real life problems could sometimes, you know, put us off balance. And all our learning, academic degrees may not help us to find a solution to the problems of life. In such a situation, one has to approach a bona fide guru. This is where the importance of having a spiritual master comes. So, in spite of having so much of wisdom and knowledge, Arjuna was unable to decide what to do in that circumstance where whether to kill his own family or to get killed. So, this was a very genuine, real problem for Arjuna, and Arjuna turned to his spiritual master, who was Lord Sri Krishna. Lord Chaitanya said that one who is a master on the science of Krishna consciousness, regardless of his social position, is a real spiritual master. Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra Kene Naya, Ye Krishna Tattva Vetta, Se Guru Haya. Quote, it does not matter whether a person is a Vipra, a learned scholar in Vedic wisdom, or is born in a lower family, or is in the renounced order of life. If he is a master in the science of Krishna, he is a perfect and bona fide spiritual master. Unquote. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 8.128. So, without being a master in the science of Krishna consciousness, no one is a bona fide spiritual master. It is also said in the Vedic literature, Sat karma nipuno vipro mantra tantra visharada a Vaishnavo gurur na syad Vaishnava swa pacho guru. Quote, a scholarly Brahmana expert in all subjects of Vedic knowledge is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava or expert in the science of Krishna consciousness. But a person born in a family of lower caste can become a spiritual master if he is a Vaishnava or Krishna conscious. Unquote. This is from Padma Purana. So here one understands that previously it is said that one has to go to a spiritual master to solve the problems of get help in solving the problems of life. And who is a spiritual master? A person who is expert in Krishna consciousness. So in today's world, we have a lot of spiritual masters to choose from. People go on a shopping spree to choose a spiritual master. Our land, India, is full of Babajis. So how do you choose a spiritual master? So our Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Mahaprabhu says, and also Padma Purana quotation is given, who is a spiritual master, who is a genuine, true spiritual master? He is uh, he is a person who is expert in Krishna consciousness. It doesn't matter whether your spiritual master is a scholarly person, is a Vipra, is a Brahmana. He could be an outcast. He could be in a lower caste or any caste. It doesn't matter. What matters is how much he is Krishna conscious. So just being a scholar or knower of the Vedas and Vedic literature does not qualify one to be a spiritual master. It is the depth of Krishna consciousness that makes a person a true spiritual master. The problems of material existence, birth, old age, disease, and death cannot be counteracted by accumulation of wealth and economic development. In many parts of the world, there are states which are replete with all facilities of life, which are full of wealth and economically developed, yet the problems of material existence are still present. They are seeking peace in different ways, but they can achieve real happiness only if they consult Krishna or the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which constitute the signs of Krishna. Through the bona fide representative of Krishna, the man in Krishna consciousness. We have seen that, you know, people who could be millionaires and billionaires commit suicide out of sheer depression and frustration with life. Just recently, it was in news that a famous producer or director of Hollywood jumped off the high-rise building, committed suicide because he was so lonely and depressed. He was he was truly wealthy. He had billions and millions of dollars in his bank, but he ended his life because he could not bear his life. So, having wealth or having good looks or having a great family, all these are not the parameter of happiness. One could have all these, but internally one would be very miserable. So, the true wealth is Krishna. Association with Krishna is the true wealth. You see, you can give comfort to the body by having a beautiful house, having a Rolls Royce, having good food to eat. All these are for the body, but you are not the body. So all the bodily comforts, all the material comforts are not going to give you lasting true happiness. You are in essence a spirit soul. So it is like Prabhupada often gives the example of a bird in a golden cage. You have a bird and you put the bird in a golden cage and you're cleaning the cage, you're polishing the cage, you're making the cage very beautiful. Is the bird going to be happy? And you're not feeding the bird. The bird is starving and you're just beautifying the cage. How is that going to help? The bird will be very miserable. And same thing we are doing. We are beautifying our body. We are going after material comforts, which is basically for the body, and our soul is starved. The soul is a part of Krishna, and unless you are joined, yog means join, unless your soul is joined to the super soul, Paramatma, Atma and Paramatma, unless there is a connection, you will be miserable no matter what your material accumulation is. This in our country, because of our past heritage, many of us are aware of this, but in the Western countries, unfortunately, this knowledge has not permeated. Thanks to Srila Prabhupada, we have ISKCON and Hare Krishna movement that spread all over the world, but still majority of the people outside this country are unaware of Krishna consciousness. So all of us should take up this task and spread Krishna consciousness because that is the one that truly nourishes the soul. If economic development and material comfort could drive away one's lamentations for family, social, national, or international inebrities, then Arjuna would not have said that even an unrivaled kingdom on earth or supremacy like that of the demigods in the heavenly planet would be unable to drive away his lamentation. He sought therefore refuge in Krishna consciousness, and that is the right path for peace and harmony. Economic development or supremacy over the world can be finished at any moment by the material nature. Even elevation to a higher planetary situation, as men are now seeking on the moon planet, can also be finished at one stroke. So, people need to understand that material opulence is not a guarantee of a happy life. If material comforts and wealth were enough, then Arjuna would not have said what he just said. He said that even the forget the earthly kingdom. At that time, those times, the Mahabharata war time, it was a war for the sovereignty of the entire earth. The entire earth was called Bharat Varsha, and there would be one Chakravarti Samrat. And in this case, as we see after the war, Raja Yudhishthir became the Chakravarti Samrat of the entire earth. It's not just a matter of one country versus the other country as we have today. We have so many countries. At that time, it was just one king, Chakravarti, and all the other smaller kings used to pay obeisances and pay a tax to that one king. So this Arjuna is saying, forget the sovereignty over the entire earth. Even if I get to rule the entire earth, it is not worth it. And he rejected the sovereignty over the three lokas, heavenly kingdom. All the opulence and wealth of the heavenly kingdom he rejected. He said nothing is worth it, really, come to think of it. All the wealth of earth, all the wealth of heaven, I reject them all because I know for sure that that is not going to give me happiness or internal peace. See, Arjuna is not yet has not yet heard Bhagavad Gita. He is at the brink. Okay, he is not there. Krishna has not started giving Bhagavad Gita. He's not heard it yet. Yet Arjuna had that much of a sense to understand that material wealth is not going to give him lasting happiness. So therefore, he says elevation to higher planets. Also, now Prabhupada is talking about moon landing because when this was written, that was the most in thing that people have landed on moon. So now the scientists are trying to, um, you know, go to other planets, moon, Mars, and this and that planet. It is a futile attempt because if you are seeking happiness, just going to another planet is not going to be making you happy because your chitta, you go carrying with you your sukshma sharira, your man, buddhi, ahankar, your subtle mind, all that is you're carrying with you. Even if you are born again, this body is gone and you're born again in a different body. Your Sukshma Sharira carries on with you, with your Atma. So, this is the time you've been given a human life and a human body. This is the time to purify your Chitta, your subtle body. So, if your subtle body is purified, then in the next birth, you can be in an elevated position. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this. Kshine punye martya lokam vishanti. Quote, when the results of pious activities are finished, one falls down again from the peak of happiness to the lowest status of life. Unquote. Many politicians of the world have fallen down in that way. Such downfalls only constitute more causes for lamentation. Therefore, if we want to curb the lamentation for good, then we have to take shelter of Krishna as Arjuna is seeking to do. So, Arjuna asked Krishna to solve his problem definitely, and that is the way of Krishna consciousness. So here the quotation is given from the Bhagavad Gita only. Kshine punye martyalokam vishanti. See, the beauty of Prabhupada's Krishna consciousness is that um, Prabhupada has given us the key to eternal happiness. He has given us the destination. How we get there and how much time we are going to get to the destination is all dependent on us. So here people, the philanthropic people of the world, you see some religions give a lot of importance to philanthropic activities, charitable activities. You feed the poor, you build schools and colleges, you give them cloth and you give them food, you give them houses. All these fall under the philanthropic activities. Of course, a person who gives in charity definitely gets the merits for that. He gets a punya for that. He gets a good credit for that. And like your bank account, you get your credit. The punya credit goes into your account. And what happens with that? Your next life, you get a higher life. You get to go to heavens and enjoy higher sense enjoyment. But what happens when those credits run out? It's like you're using a card. When you run out of the good credits, when you run out of your money, what happens? Kshine punye martya lokam vishanti. You fall back upon this earth. So that is not a lasting happiness. That is not a lasting solution. You can do all the charity you want. You will get a lot of good karma. But what happens when you use up those karma? You've fallen back into the earth, and again the cycle repeats. You again do good karma. So that's not a lasting destination. What is a lasting destination? Is to develop love for Krishna. Once the love for Krishna is developed, that never perishes, and that is your ultimate destination. Hope that you've understood something, you've benefited in some way. If you like the video, please give a thumbs up. I look forward to hearing your comments and feedback. Um, Please feel free to share with others, your friends and family, and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for listening and being there. See you next time. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.